I think we are now live. What's up, dudes? Welcome to the NAMM Summit Roundtable, whatever you want to call it. I have a group of the hoi polloi who were with me at NAMM, and let's go around the horn. First up, I'm just going to work left to right on the screen down below. We have a man who needs no introduction, but I'll introduce him anyway. Tone King.
Hello, everybody. Robert, Phillip. I am happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to the chat.
All right. Up next, we have a man who might need an introduction, first time on the show, but already a favorite, Phillip McKnight. Hello, Phillip.
Hey, how's it going? Can I say what's up, dudes, too?
You can. License, trademark.
Patent
As
pending.
long as you put the appropriate symbol at the end, you can use it all you want. And last but certainly not least, the man with probably the best hair tonight, Robert Baker.
What up? What up? I'm just here for the hair. I don't know. I don't even know why I was invited.
Well,
the best is the Pantene picture. You know, Pantene picture. If I'm on a Pantene bottle, it's awesome.
All right, guys. So I think the reason why we're here is I want to keep focused onto a singular topic for a little bit, and then we can open it up to the floor. But for a while, I think we just want to talk about NAMM. For those of you who are wondering why I'm over here instead of over there, I don't know. That computer just, ever since that Windows 10 update, it's just a little wonky. So I had to come over here and do it over here. But getting to the NAMM stuff, I have a whole bunch here. Why don't we start with favorite new amp or gear, non-guitar category. So you could do an amp, but it has to be like not a guitar. You can't choose that. But why don't we just work left to right? We'll start with Tone King. Tone King, favorite new amp, favorite new gear? NAMM?
I'm afraid you're going to call me first. Favorite piece of gear that's not a guitar? Oh, man.
Yeah, that's a separate category.
I'd have to think about this, especially that the only thing I cover is, guitars and amps and pedals. I would say pedal-wise, Wampler had the, I forget how you pronounce it, Dracaris.
Oh, yeah.
Phonetically, it's like Dracaris or something like that. But that video, first of all, the player was phenomenal that was doing the demo, Tony something or other. And it just sounded so good. It sounded like and I was talking to Brian Wampler afterwards, and I said, that's all you need, like delay or reverb. I think his ethereal is a delay and reverb, and it just sounded so good. So I'd say, off the top of my head, any single piece of gear that's not a guitar, I would say that pedal was really, really nice.
How about you, Phil?
It's tough because I want to say an amp and a pedal, but so okay, cool. So I think for pedal, I was pretty excited about the Dirty Shirley from Friedman because I already liked the BOD, and what I liked about the Dirty Shirley was it was so loud in that place that you can't even think or hear. But I walked up to a guy, he just happened to be playing them, and I said, hey, and he asked me if I want to play. I said, no, you just keep playing, let me play with them. And even in that loud mess, I could hear that it was cleaner and crisper than the BOD. So I was impressed because that was a pretty horrible environment to listen to it. It still sounded pretty good. And then I like that Paul Reed Smith Sunzera 20-watt combo. I thought that was cool too.
Can I ask Phillip a question, or am I going to throw it?
No, go ahead.
Would you say that the pedals are reminiscent of the sounds of the amp, or are they a different thing?
I have no problem. Well, let's put it this way. I think it's a placebo. I think because they say it sounds like the amp, we hear it sounds like the amp. But what's great is I have no problem lying to myself. Right.
I like what you said about placebo because we want to believe.
Right.
It's sometimes, this is like maybe a future video. You like put a white label on a pedal and, is it really Can you guess what that is, or is it, you know?
No,
No.
I don't think you could be able to, but still doesn't make me like it less.
Yeah. I think
How about you,
label,
Robert? Any piece of gear? You saw that a little.
What was that?
Any piece of gear that caught your fancy?
I liked the new the Dynamis amp from Rev and those Donner pedals. I don't know if they were new necessarily, but they were new to me. So
I agree on both fronts.
Yeah, I was impressed with, but the Dynamis was that really cool kind of like low gain amp. It still had some like kick to it and stuff, but and the Donner pedals, which I mean that Super amp sounded really good too. I guess that could be thrown in there.
Yeah,
Super amp, phenomenal. Yeah, I'd have to say Super amp just sounds so good.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. I just bought one, so I think that for me it was a the show thing because I bought one before I got there.
Which did you get?
So get this, I went through them all because I think the biggest problem with those amps is they make so many different ones.
That's my problem. Trying to pick one out and I can't.
Yeah, and I was dumb enough to start A-B'ing them like crazy, right? And then you just make yourself even more nuts. I think I liked the Comet the most, but
he just went out.
Oh, am I there?
Oh.
You
know why he's going out? Okay. I think your phone. I've noticed this. Your phone had serious interference.
I'll put my phone all the way over here. It's like 4 feet away. Sorry about that.
But I ended up buying the dual tone.
Dual tone. Okay.
Dual tone.
How do you think that compares to the Black Magic? Because the Black Magic is all the rage right now.
Yeah, the Black Magic. If the Black Magic is awesome, and that's why they make the Comet, which is like a more affordable version of that, a little smaller, because it has a 10 instead of the 12.
Hey, Louis, you have your headphones on? I'm hearing a lot of feedback from your side.
You're hearing feedback from me?
Not feedback, but
yeah.
I'm hearing like a.
Hang on.
Just make sure we're all in the same place.
No.
Yeah, mine should be pretty
good. Oh yeah, much better, much better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what happened.
For me, it was sort of out of left field. There was a booth near where my buddy's booth was, and it had a thing. It's called, I think it's by Behringer. It's called DeepMind 12. It was a new, like, true analog synthesizer that was like digitally controlled. And I gotta say, I threw a set of headphones on and was checking that out and was like, this sounds amazing. I was like, oh, I could fall in, and it's like $9.99, and it's true. Supposedly, it's true analog, and I gotta say, I was impressed.
You know, this goes to show, while you're mentioning synthesizers, this goes to show you that stuff that shows up on TV really does work. So the Super Bowl halftime, who was that? Who was the Lady
Gaga?
Lady, yeah.
Synth guitar. I was like,
oh yeah,
I want that.
I've always wanted a keytar because I can play keyboards a tiny bit, and but they were really expensive, and then they got really cheap, and now I think they're creeping up kind of expensive again. I don't know if there was one out there. What was it? The Alesis. That was like, you could get it pretty cheap, you know, a couple of $100, and I think they're creeping back up in price again. I don't know if it's still on the market, or maybe it got off the market because it wasn't very good. All right, next.
Not really practical, but it looks badass. At least to look. Yeah. Maybe I could do the makeup like her and do a video. Anyway.
All right. Best booth, or the booth you, at the very least, you found the most interesting. We'll start with Robert.
Oh man,
these are tough questions. I wish I got a copy in advance.
All right, you know what? I'll go first. I liked Kiesel's booth. I kind of do almost every year. There's just something, the way it's lit and the way he has the instruments. The place just looks like upscale.
No, you know why? Because they make it look like a stage setting, and it's just you walk in and you feel like you're on stage. They definitely have that stage feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we pick booths that are upstairs?
Oh, absolutely.
Or do you want like
absolutely. And the other one, and I don't want to steal anyone else's thunder, I thought the PRS booth was good this year. I liked. I liked the instruments on the wall that were like the actual ones. Wasn't that what they were supposed to be? They were like the real ones that actually belonged to the people, not just copies. I mean, maybe it's their number twos and it really does belong to them, but it's not the number one. I don't know what the story was, but you know what? I want to believe. So,
okay.
You know.
All right. Turn. Not my turn.
Go ahead.
No, not my turn.
No, it is your turn.
I'm still thinking.
All right, I'm calling an audible. Tone tape.
All right. Best booth. You know, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say the best booth was some of the booths that I had the most fun at. I had a lot of fun hanging with the guys at Acacia. That was like home base for me. I kept going back to Acacia.
Same here.
I enjoyed my time at the Tascam booth because I recently got an audio interface, which is no secret to those that tune into my stuff. And it's really amazing how many like tools that they have for guys like us doing what we do. So, you know, like we see a lot of cool guitars and pedals and amps and all that stuff, but it was nice getting outside of that a little bit and seeing some cool utilities that will improve my show type of thing. So like Tascam booth for that, which I was there about twice because there's so many gadgets that they have. I enjoyed hanging at the Acacia Guitar booth. Plus, there was some special stuff going on there for me and Robert. So that was a nice thing. And then I had, I had fun at the Donner booth hanging with you guys. I think some of the most memorable things are the places you had the most fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Duncan booth is always one of my favorites. I love like the whole setup at the Dunk with the couches and stuff. It's just, and we got to watch Doug Rappaport, so there's that.
And that's one of the few booths that actually has a stage, which is nice. I actually commented to Seymour Duncan that what I liked most about his booth is that he actually had a stage for people to perform, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That leaves you, Phillip. You're not going to escape. Best booth.
Yeah. So this is my 13th NAMM. And so I will tell you, my favorite booth was ESP guitars, and the reason is, so on a side note, because you guys said it, the booth I had the most fun at was probably Paul Reed Smith, and believe it or not, was Acacia was next because I was having a blast. They were taking my abuse pretty well, but I like the old days where they used to bring everything to the NAMM show. Right, it was just an overwhelming sense of how many guitars you could bring, and I think some of the last guys holding out doing that. I mean, ESP, when you go in that booth, you're not missing nothing. They're all there, right? Yeah. And Schecter's up there. There was a little bit of, thinning, but so although the booths are all great, but Ibanez and all those guys are great, but half the stuff they used to carry just 5 years ago. So it's nice to see them bring everything. Because I know what it means when they bring everything. It costs a lot in time, money, everything. And then when you see it, it's great. Plus, who doesn't love a $100,000 guitar you can't ever?
I almost wrecked about $100,000 worth of guitars at the ESP.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. No, that was a Schecter, wasn't it?
Was it a Schecter? Oh, you know what? You were right. It might have been a Schecter. That was scary. I don't have insurance to cover that. Oh, man.
We were all taking a deep breath. You leaned on that fake wall.
Oh, I know. I leaned on a wall, and it wasn't a real wall. And the whole wall just bowed right in, and all those guitars just swung out. The whole room went, whoa. And I was like, oh, who did that? What kind of
Yeah, we were like, all right, let's get out of here.
Yeah, let's get out of here before that dude does that again. I'll do that. You got to turn your phone off, bro. That's your phone.
my phone is like way over here. Yeah,
well, that's far enough for radio waves to reach.
I'm gonna actually power the phone off. Hang on.
All right. Here's an easy one. I'm gonna lob a I'm gonna lob a meatball right here, literally and figuratively. Best food.
I gotta go first. I'm gonna go first.
Go ahead.
That like a self-inflicted weight joke here. That one I was ready to answer. So they had the first truck on the right. I don't remember what it was, but I've had this like 3 years in a row now. Like if you walk out, it's on the right. Walk out of the NAMM show, it's on the right. It's like if Canadian Connection was here, he would know because I've eaten there with him the last couple of years. They have this chimichurri on a flank steak on top of French fries thing, and it is phenomenal. I actually look forward to that every year. That's the best meal, in NAMM, not off premise, but in NAMM. Best off premise is actually the burgers at Red Robin. Those are really good burgers.
Those are good.
Agreed.
Do you guys not have Red Robin on the East Coast?
Oh no, we have it, but Red Robin definitely makes the best burger.
Yeah, we only have one that I know of, and it's like an hour or so away. So it's definitely not a common occurrence that I eat there.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of like the Fridays and the Chili's, like those chain places, but Red Robin, for a chain, they make the best burger.
Agreed. Plus, it was a nice night because we had a lot of friends around, and it was a good conversation, if I remember correctly. For me, it was the last night. I actually, in terms of the food quality, we went out to some Italian place. I'm pretty sure I saw Alex Skolnick across the room. It might have been there. And you know what? It was really people are saying Five Guys. Five Guys, I'm with you on that. I love Five Guys.
Like Five Guys too.
Yeah, big Five Guys. But yeah, you know what? The food was good, and everyone was at the table, and it was a lot of fun banter, and it was that was a good night. And the food was exceptional, especially after eating crappy. What were you going to do on Friday? You couldn't leave the building. It was like a typhoon outside. It's like you pretty much were stuck in the building eating those almost like steamed burgers. It was like, oh, they came off so fast. You're like, I hope I'm not getting E. coli here. It was pretty bad. So who hasn't answered? Robert.
Based on when I was the hungriest was when we went to Outback. I don't know what night that was, but that was because we had eaten breakfast and we didn't get to eat lunch that day.
Yeah, you ordered a steak the size of a toilet seat.
Yeah, it was. Oh God, it was so huge.
The size of a toilet seat.
It was. Well, that's what happened when you get hungry. Then it was I was like, I always want the porterhouse steak, and
Can I go?
Do what?
Can I go again? Because I ate it.
You want to amend your answer?
I want to answer. I ate at Roscoe's chicken
and waffle.
Oh, did you really? How was it?
We don't have that in Jersey. And I dragged my buddy. I dragged him to all the stuff that he didn't want to go to. He didn't want to go to Red Robin, but he liked the burger. He didn't want to go to Roscoe's. But I'll tell you what, man. They had the fried chicken was good, but the waffles were phenomenal.
I bet.
There you go. Right. See, now you're getting questions more geared for my,
I'm trying to find a way if I can turn the autofocus off of my camera. It's making me insane. But I haven't turned off on the. I know if it ain't one thing, it's another. How about you, Philip? Best food.
I eat a breakfast in the morning, and then I bring a power bar or two with me throughout the day, so I don't eat there. Yeah, I just stay on mission the whole day, right?
Really?
And then usually once I leave, I hit wherever. You know what I mean? So I think I went to Outback the first night. The second night was I don't know. I don't even remember. Most of the time it's just use something fast food or something at the hotel room.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just like I said, I've been coming for so many years. I'm always miserable whatever they serve there. So I just decided. A friend of mine a couple years back the lines were so long. I was sitting in line and I was like, this is horrible. And he pulls out a power bar and he starts eating it. And I'm like, and he goes, you want one? And I said, yeah. And ever since then I realized like, that's all you really need. Cause once you have a big breakfast, it's only around 3 o'clock. You get hungry, you eat a power bar. You just got to make it to 6 p.m. You don't have to stand in their lines, eat their crappy food. All right.
Yeah. The last couple of years, my hotel has had pretty good breakfast in the morning. I had a new hotel this year. The hotel was 4 weeks old, and let me tell you, staying in a hotel that new is sublime. It is just incredible. It's so nice, but the breakfast sucked. Oh my God. It was like they clearly had like the janitor working the kitchen because it was god awful. I was like, oh my God, this is below cafeteria grade, and I couldn't eat it. I wound up having like a stale Danish or something, so we wound up chowing there. Probably a little too much.
We had a pretty good breakfast at the Residence Inn.
Oh my God, your breakfast was amazing. My hotel's was awful. Mine was like on par with like Steve's, like water, biscuits, and gravy, and then like TK.
Yeah.
Yours was like, I'm just like,
Can I tell a quick story? So Robert had said to me the first night, he was like, "Hey man, something happened with my room. Do you mind if I crash at your place?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem," because it was a big place. And then so I think you had a pretty good rest, right? Because it was a nice, but also a new hotel. Then we went down for this, 5-star breakfast. And then he was like, yeah, after this, it's all downhill, from where you were going. So
for me, for me, it was just back to
Residence Inn, which was right around the corner, is real nice.
What was your favorite performance at NAMM? For me, I'm still going with Rocco Petzin. And it doesn't have to be like the most amazing, whatever, but it's just the most enjoyable for me. Because I mean, let's face it, Doug's was pretty amazing as well.
Yeah.
But I still didn't get the chills like I got when I was watching Rocco, because it was just bringing back all that flood of memories of all that 80s shred. I was just loving it.
Where did you?
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that. Where was that?
He was at the Chapman booth, and he was up for what, 2 songs, I think. Maybe it was like a Dawkins tune, which was very up tempo. I forget it.
See it?
Yeah.
yeah. And he was exceptional. I thought he was really, really good. I just enjoyed it. How about you? Let's go to Phil.
For me, it was at the Blue Guitar, the Blue Guitar amp, Jennifer Batten. And it was because, she was one of my first guitar clinics I went to as a teenager, right? And it was just amazing to see somebody, that you realize now has been in the game a while and playing it. It's just the chops are still there and her attitude is still great. And, and she's funny. She cracks you up, says funny stuff. So
she's an amazing player. I remember her back before she was with Michael Jackson, which pretty much made her, ultra famous.
Right.
But she was still pretty famous before that among guitar players because her two-hand tapping technique, he looked around, he wanted someone who was like the closest to Eddie Van Halen, and she was it.
Yeah.
And man, he was really, really good player. So anyway, not to go off on a tangent about Jennifer Batten, but
yeah. But like I said, it was great, and it was just like a throwback to my childhood. I got to live in a few minutes of being, the part that started it for you, the passion, to see it, and it was just great. It's like going to Disneyland again as an adult.
How about you, Robert?
I'm gonna have to copy yours totally. Doug was the one, I wanted to see more than anything, but as far as best performance, it's definitely Rocco. It was just like you were watching it, and just like, even the way he was like standing, I was just like, man, like this is like what it would have been like back in 1985 or something like that.
Well, no, I was there. That was what it was like.
Yeah.
That's why, I'm having like a friggin' flashback up there, you know, to the paradise of the channel in Boston. You know, it was like, man.
Yeah, he nails that tone too. Cause he just got an old Charvel, so it's me, him, and two other guys who have old Charvels. He just sent me the track. It's like this big '80s metal, just like shred fest. I'm like, so much like '80s metal in one video. I can't wait. So yeah, he wins for me.
Yeah. TK, did you catch any performances?
Yeah, I think the when they had Jakey Lee, George Lynch, and Warren DeMartini do their trio outside was amazing.
Oh, what? I missed that. What?
I'm just you guys.
oh man, I was like,
I am.
You're like,
what? I'm gonna put you on.
Yeah, well,
headlock noogie next time. Oh,
two noogies. So I'm kind of a simpleton with stuff like this. You know, I actually enjoyed watching Robert play at Rev. And I recorded that performance. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. But Robert, that was a great performance. And this is no secret, Robert, I love the way you play. And
thank you very much, man.
Down next to you and just watching you rip on the Donner stuff. I really enjoy watching you play.
Agreed.
So that would probably
thank you.
Two performances that I like the best.
You know who else actually? Joey, what's his last name? Who's the guy from the
Landreth?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was you know, he was really interesting. He was doing a lot of like little triad things, you know, and incorporating slide, you know, and I was like, it was really interesting and very well executed. I really liked it. You know, I heard it later on in a bigger setting, and it was even more impressive. You know, it's hard when you're just up there by yourself. I am going to kill this camera.
Funny, your camera's doing the focus. My audio keeps cutting out for blips, and my phone is off, by the way.
Yeah, but it hasn't acted up since you turned your phone off the way it was before.
I think we have a working theory, Captain. You know, it's like, this is right. I mean, seriously, I told you it's your phone. I know that sound. I had that same thing. It's that.
But how come
I don't know. It's like it does. It has. I used to have that same thing. It used to be in my office. I would sit there, and all of a sudden, over the radio, I'd hear that exact same sound. So I knew it. And then I switched phones, or my carrier switched the band or something, and
right.
Boom, that was it.
Just gonna set my phone down on the computer.
Did we get everyone on this question? Did we miss Phil?
Say that again, because that cut out one more time.
Did we get everyone on this question? Who did we miss?
Nope, that's everyone.
I think you got everyone.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Next up, I might say favorite new guitar for the end. Why don't we go with favorite NAMM video not done by anyone here presently?
Oh, that's easy. I'll go first. May I?
Okay.
I actually watched Philip's top 10. Was it 5 or 10? I remember.
Yeah, but he says, see, we can't be here.
Oh, I thought it was that I didn't do it. Oh.
Oh, no, just of us.
Okay.
Oh, now it gets hard.
Ask the question again, Pixie.
Name a video that you liked that wasn't done by anybody here. I'll go first because for me, it's really easy.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was when Andertons was in the Music Man booth interviewing, I think it was Paul Gilbert. And then all of a sudden, all these other people started showing up, Steve Morse. And it was a very genuine moment. And the captain was just sat back and just let it happen, which was very smart of him. And there was a lot of really funny sort of off the cuff banter, you know, going on between Steve Morse and John Petrucci and Paul Gilbert. And it happened so organically, you know, it felt genuine, you know, so that for me was the best video among, I think nobody here was Andertons. Anyone else want to take one?
My favorite was, his name's Henning, but he goes by HP42.
Yeah.
That's Psyche, something like that, right?
Yeah, you can't pronounce it, but I think what I heard is that whatever that is, it means HP42.
Okay.
So, yeah, but not only did he have really interesting NAMM footage, right? You know, and he got in the trenches, kind of like the Tone King, right? And just get in there and start asking the questions and go through the gear. But if you guys haven't seen it, he did a video the day before the NAMM where he went to Boutique Amps factory, the guys who do all those brands, you know, like Friedman and all that.
Friedman.
And if you haven't seen him, watch that video. He goes to the factory. They let him loose just by himself to see the scale and the size. If you guys haven't seen it, to watch all of those Wamper pedals sitting on baker's racks. They had baker's racks. Like you're watching like a giant factory full of like hot dog buns, but instead it's just thousands of pedals.
Man.
Yeah, it'll when you watch it, it overtakes you how you didn't grasp the size of that company.
Wow. Because that's also Diesel Amps and Morgan Amps is part of that too, aren't they?
Yeah, and so that's what he shows you in the video. It's like the Tone King, not this Tone King, but the other Tone King. It's a 65 amps, Wampler, Diesel, Morgan. It's all in one building, and it was a really impressive video to see.
You got to turn down a little bit, Tone King. Your volume is so high, you're so back.
Really? How's that? Is that better?
I think so.
Okay.
See, I can hear you. I could hear Phillip when he was talking. He was coming through. You sure your headphones are on and not speakers? It seems to be coming through. No?
Is that better?
How's that?
You're fine. Not you, Phil. You're fine.
Okay. How's my level? My voice level?
Oh, awesome. Real good.
Okay.
Real good. All right. Who else? Who do we got? Robert, you up next?
Yeah, I think. Shoot, man, I had a video and I forgot it now. Well, one of them is I always like the Dunlop videos. They always like, especially the performances. It's really cool just how, because they have good audio for all their performances and stuff. And then the other one I remember now that I really, really liked was Greg Koch and Pete Thorne. They did a video.
Wildwood Guitars.
Yeah, his videos are always the best.
Yeah, that's a good call. I forgot about the Wildwood guitar videos are real good. And he was at NAMM and he was sort of like on set for Wildwood Guitars that pretty much that entire show.
Was he? Yeah, I just watched it. It was him. He was checking out. Pete Thorne was kind of introducing his new signature, his two Sir guitars,
right?
And it was Greg, and they were like, it was the first time they ever met, so it was kind of cool. They really like just bounced off of each other really well. So I thought that was cool.
We may have lost TK for the moment. Maybe we'll move on.
You don't see me?
Oh, there you are. There you are.
Oh, what happened? Why did you think I was gone?
You know what? Your video was frozen and it just showed you off screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
But you're back.
I'm here. Was it my turn? My favorite video?
Yeah, but it can't be done by any one of us because it's not, it's not a circle jerk.
Circle jerk. So I'm gonna have to go with the Henning Pauly one, but it was specifically the Phil X video. It was almost awkwardly uncomfortable, and the funny thing, everyone's laughing. Did you see it? So the funny thing was, I was reading the comments, and he had replied. He said, "No, that's the relationship he has with Phil. Like they apparently have this, thing that they do that making jokes and stuff. But watching it." The stuff that always keeps you the most interested is the awkward nature, sometimes the candid nature of what happens on camera. And I was watching, I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Like, it was all very intentional between them. But that was, Phil X is like a champ on camera, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They had throwing guitars, just all sorts of fun stuff that was going on. I'd probably say that one you know, when you look at like retention, I probably watched that one from start to finish, you know, where a lot of the other ones you'd hop around and look at different things, but that probably, you know, caught most of my attention.
Did you put that phone back
Like
on?
The phone is off. You heard my landline. See, look, I'm hitting my home button. It's not going on. See, I swear it's off. You want me to? You know, I'm on a wireless mic. I get off a wireless mic. You think?
We got about 20 minutes to go. You're probably okay.
I got a straight up condenser. It'll take me all of 10 seconds, and so I'll get off the wireless. Maybe it'll help a little bit.
All right.
And on a side note, Henning, he has an odd personality. You know, in that factory tour, he licks one of the amps.
I just discovered his channel like maybe a week or so before NAMM. I had never watched his stuff, and I was like, man, he has like an amazing setup. Like, I don't know whether this is basement or whatever that studio.
I'm pretty sure I've been watching for a while. I'm pretty sure he's a producer, and I know he's done albums like with Sebastian Bach and stuff like that. Yeah. See.
Wow.
So so that explains when you're looking at that room he's in.
Yeah,
like it's a legitimate studio. Yeah, it's a legitimate studio, and he's in Germany.
Yeah, and it's not like, I mean, it's every amp you seem like you can think of. He's got Friedman's.
Yes.
Like, I'm just like looking at him like, who has all this gear?
Yeah,
because he did an interview of some. I didn't know who the guitar player was. It was like he's in a German band, but the guy was amazing. He's like a Strat player, but I was like, who is this guy? And then like this wicked setup.
Yeah.
So.
No, yeah, it's impressive for sure.
All right, guys. My next one, and I think with this, and we're going to end with new guitar, and then we'll field questions. But the next one up is NAMM vendor, either you hooked up with or you want to work with someone there that you are very interested in. Either you took their card or you are going to work with them. It's someone new that you were like, oh, I'm pretty interested in them, and maybe we can do something. Anyone want to go first? I could.
By the way, is the sound okay on this? I changed the mic over. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
That's really good.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's like voice porn now.
All that low end all of a sudden.
I know. Damn.
So I'll take a swing at this.
Okay.
I was really enamored by the Supro amps. They were at every booth. They seem to have taken pedals really well. And it's funny because I'm actually friends with David Coltai. He lives out in Long Island. And, you know, he owns, I knew him through Pigtronics, but he also owns Supro. And, you know, with Supro, but after just seeing and hearing so many, I had reached out to him afterwards and I said, you know, I'd really love to cover some. And he was like, let's do it. So we'll be getting some Supro in the mix sometime soon. So that's going to be new for me.
Nice.
Nice. Anyone else? I could go. For me, I thought it was Donner. I was kind of interested. I thought they sounded pretty good.
Yep. I
was impressed. They were little minis, but I was in. The other thing, and it's interesting, is I was trying to say this when we were at the booth, is that the footprint of every pedal is identical, so that they only have to drill out one case, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what sort of the point I was making, is that one of the ways they cut costs is it's 3 knobs and a switch, end of story, every pedal, whether you need it or not. So they were finding ways to use those knobs and those switches on those pedals because that's the floor plan. And they save a ton of money by sticking with that single floor plan because they only have to cut one case, and then it's just a matter of painting it after that. So that's, again, I thought a clever way to keep their costs down and the quality, you know, still really, really good.
Yeah. Agreed. And they're really nice people too, which goes a long way.
All right, anyone else? New vendor? Someone you hooked up with? Someone you could be, if you didn't, you could be interested in hooking up with? This is coming out a little weird, but you know,
I'm not sure where this is going. I guess I'll mention someone I want to hook.
This is a business question, not a personal question.
Okay. Oh, okay. Never mind. Different answer. Hold on. No. One of the biggest, companies I always just forever wanted to work with was Seymour Duncan, and you were there with me when I was talking to him and stuff like that. And hopefully we'll be doing something with them, but just because I've always used Duncan pickups and everything, so that'd be a big one that I would really like to, hopefully go to the next stage of hooking up. Apparently.
Sure. How about you, Phil? Anything?
No, I didn't make any. I don't know what I do wrong. I think all I did was irritate everybody.
I do wrong.
I appreciate.
Not only did I not seem to make any friends, I felt like if everybody could just take their hand and extend it out, and push me a foot way more, they would just be more comfortable. But I will say this: I didn't make any kind of. I don't want to say I didn't make any friends, but I didn't make any kind of.
You didn't make any enemies?
Yeah, I didn't make any enemies, I don't think. Although I did find more companies seemed more irritated with me than pleased with me, whatever I do or don't do. But believe it or not, the only so I'll put it this way: I'll tell you what pieces of gear I was thinking about buying, right, or interested in, right, and it's probably an Acacia guitar. I've been probably on their website. So 24 times in the last couple of weeks since the NAMM show. Oh. The two guitars, I know this is, we can't talk about that. So not yet. So
no. Let's just roll right into that. Best new guitar.
Best new guitar. So the two guitars that struck my interest were a guitar company called Stone Guitars, made in Brazil. They were really cool. They had that old Washburn look. Remember the Washburns with the 32 frets?
Oh yeah,
guitars,
they had like body. The crackle finish.
Yeah, crackle finish. They were making those kind of guitars, but these played great and they sounded great. A little on the high pricey side, but not because they weren't worth it. Just is right. And I was out playing and trying guitars, and that and the Acacia guitars were the two guitars that when I was touching them, I was having an emotional reaction, like, wow, I like this. This is missing from my collection, right? Because And I went in fully aware that I might be buying one of those gym reissues. That's why I bought that 91 right before I got there. My joke is you always eat before you go to the grocery store. I always buy something before I go to the NAMM.
It's actually a good strategy.
Yeah, I was going to say that's brilliant.
So, but those, so it's I really enjoyed the Acacia guitars, touching them and looking at them, right? They look cool, they feel cool, and I thought their price is realistic. I know it's, I don't want to sound like a fanboy to anybody, but it's hard not to like them. Mm-hmm. As a group of guys, like you said, a group of guys, I take that always in consideration. I don't know about you guys, but it's always when you get 5 minutes of Paul Reed Smith time to talk to you, but you can't get another company's 5 minutes time. It always means something to you. And then it makes you want that stuff more. And so same with Acacia. It's like when you get 5 minutes of somebody's real time, they're really paying attention to you, and listening to you, whether they care or not, or, right. It just feels nice.
I can't agree more on the sentiment of dealing with good people. And, Acacia's right up there with the best of them.
Oh yeah. Truly genuine, because like I said, I did a bunch of videos with them. I got to watch them as they were working on the guitars and stuff. So they're definitely truly genuinely just good people.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and they've done something. Like I've been around guitars a long time, like you guys, and I've been in the industry and all kinds of different forms. And I take notice to everything. And one thing that they did that was interesting is they've done the hat trick that's tricky. They've created a unique product that is boutique, but isn't crazy expensive. That's a very hard thing for a small company to do.
Well, you know how they could do that. They do all the work themselves between the four brothers. When companies are not able to do the work themselves and start have to outsourcing to other people, that price goes up because everybody's got to get paid. But they're all the work in house, which is amazing unto itself. One brother does the CNC, one does the paint, one does the wood. It's just amazing. They work like a team. It's just it's an amazing business that they have.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I killed the comments on my end. Hold on.
Oh, what we haven't been live for the last 2 minutes.
I know. Here we go. I think I fixed it. Computers making life easier? I don't think so. I think for me, it was hard for me, and because I had the questions in advance, so I had all afternoon to think about it.
Yeah,
and so it was a lot easier for me, and I still couldn't come down to one because there were 3 guitars that really caught my fancy, as my British friends would say, and one was speaking of British, was the upgraded. There was really only one that really did it, but there was one Chapman model that had a neck through that looked very sleek, a Strat style. I think it's like the ML1 Pro Modern or something like that. I mean, compared to the old one, it's like a whole new different guitar. I really like that one. In the Ibanez booth, it was that new RG with the 7 or 11 piece Wenge Babinga. Like, did you see the guitar? It had like a flame maple fingerboard
front and
on
back.
It. No, not that one. That was high end. No, this is a premium. This is not a prestige. It's a premium.
Oh, I don't think I saw it.
Yeah, it's an Indonesian made. Did I dream it? I could have sworn that guitar was there. And then the last one was the Acacia one, was the new one, the Kronos, which to me was sort of the marriage of a sort of a Les Paul bottom rump, a rounded bottom with to me an Iceman top with that sort of like a mini Iceman horn. It was sort of a marriage of a Les Paul and an Iceman for me, and done well. It didn't look like the unholy child. It looked like the holy child. I was like, I kind of like the look of this. It's pretty nice, I thought it was a good look. So for me, it was that Kronos, was probably the most interesting. I mean, the other 2 are shapes I'm familiar with, styles I'm familiar with. I think of all 3, I probably would tip the scales on the Kronos model just for being interesting, just for being so, like Siskel and Ebert used to say. I'm dating myself. Show me something I haven't seen before. Show me something interesting. And I think when you tick that box on the Acacia, they probably win. But the other 2 are honorable mentions.
Nice. My turn.
Go for it.
Okay. So I'm right there with you on the Acacia. No secret. Car that was ordered was there. So that was probably at the very top of the list. And then me, in addition to that, was the BC Rich Gunslinger that had me at hello.
Oh, yeah.
And that was, there was something special about that. You can't watch an 80s rock video without seeing a reverse headstock BC Rich Gunslinger of some sort in a video, whether it be a neon color or a Nagal painting or whatever it may be. But that was an iconic guitar, and an iconic time in my life anyway. The fact that, and they did these retro series, and I'm not really into these, budget guitars that are just, outsourced type of thing. So I was like, it looked like it, but it wasn't really, because you have to remember, a USA made BC Rich Gunslinger used to sell new for about, $800 to $1,000. So when they came out with these $200 models, we naturally think about, or $400 models, you naturally feel like, it gets back into the consumer, aspect of, you want to get something good for what you're buying type of thing, right? You get what you pay for. So when I saw that, it was the real thing. It was USA, it was handmade, it was the reverse headstock. It was also custom shop. So whereas a typical Gunslinger would have a maple neck, this had the Macassar ebony. It had the oversized diamond inlays, just stuff that you would, so that was really an interesting piece. So that one is that one's coming here, and then of course the Acacia guitar, which I have right behind me over here, I used in my latest video, and it just sounds sounds phenomenal. I wish I could give you a third guitar, but I'm probably drawing a blank on a third guitar that really had me, and I'm not sure on the third, but those are probably the top two.
What were they asking for the Gunslinger? I saw it. It looked great, but what was it? What were they tagging them at?
The asking price on that was $2,700.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
What was the one? I always wanted the Gunslinger. What was the one with the great artwork on it? Right. The with the girls, right? You know what I'm talking about? The 80s pop looking art.
Yeah, I think that was the Nagal.
Yes.
Nagal, yeah. Yep. I mean, I think it was like C.C. DeVille had one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, it's funny. If you watch, I forget what Poison video, Nothing But a Good Time, maybe. He must be using about 10 BC Rich gunslingers, all different colors, in one, like a 3-minute. The colors, every scene, it's like a different gunslinger.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a lot of, like for instance, they had Hamer. Hamer was back, who's owned by Command, but it's, I'm not beating up on imported. It's just, it's when you could get the real thing for not a lot of money for the same price that they're trying to sell an import. For me as a consumer, I'd go buy the real thing, and especially if you could set up a guitar and clean it up and all that. So there's a lot of iconic brands. Pixie, you had Kramer guitar. Is Kramer dead? Right? We didn't see Kramer, but there was a little bit of a rebirth into the Kramer. What's that?
They had 2 guitars. That's what they were showing. That's why it was so hard to find in a room of 200 guitars. They were showing 2.
Well, it probably
and one was the old SM1 in a red color. It's not like they were showing a new shape. And I think the other one was a Satchel, which is ironic because he's no longer with them. It seems his latest video, he's officially playing Charvel.
Yeah, with the new video that they just released.
But I swear to God, look at that body. That's not a Charvel body. That body's cut way too hard at the end. That body looks to me like some other guitar he had, like that green one, that sort of like green striped one. I swear they painted that pink for that video, and that's the same guitar as that other one. That body shape looks like that green one.
Yeah, it's funny seeing artists hop around at different companies. It just reminds you that there's a business behind it. It's not always what they necessarily want to be playing. It's, there's always something behind it. So kids, beware.
I think it's always, like, think of this. Satchel's a perfect example. You see this a lot. We saw it happen with Van Halen. Satchel was with EVH amps. So if they're taking care of them and another company's not, it's easy for that company says, hey, while you're here, check out our other products.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Right.
And I've done some artist interviews, and I got a little bit of that inside scoop. And I think you said it best. Are they being taken care of? Because when you're on the road, the rigors of the road, and something goes wrong, you want a company to have you back. And it's usually the companies that don't have their back that pretty big reason for someone to leave right out of the gate.
Yeah, so. There's I won't say any names, but there's definitely a bigger name guitar brand, and it's like I know quite a few people who were artists of theirs, and they said the guitars are good and all that stuff, but like the artist relations is just horrible. So they've all left the brand and stuff like that. When that's your livelihood and you have to depend on a company, and we're not just talking about free gear, we're talking about support, we're talking about just making sure, you're always up and running. There are some companies that, I think they just fail horribly when it comes to taking care of the artist,
So Robert, what about you?
See, mine's gonna.
Yeah, I know the one. I know the one you're gonna say.
I don't know. No, the number one, I'll give 2, and they're both by the same brand. But the one is definitely, you know, my guitar that was at Acacia. That was exciting because even up to that point, I hadn't played it very much. I had played it pretty much for one video, and that was it. You know, then the weekend was playing other guitars, so I had seen it, but just really hadn't played it that much.
Now,
and then the other,
before you go, just to be clear, you had seen that guitar just a few days before the NAMM show, right? You didn't have that. Was that at your house?
No.
You saw that when you flew out to NAMM a few days early and just happened to go meet up with those guys. So it's not like you had it and it went out there. You saw it, what, 5 days before NAMM?
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because it's like, you know, and then to go out and play at NAMM with a guitar, basically, like, you haven't played before. You just had to hope that, and I'm like, well, this is spec'd out the way that I wanted it to be, so it should play like something that I'm imagining, and it did. So
imagine if you got there and you're sitting there and you're like, God, I hate this thing. You're all smiling, going, it's great. And in your mind, you're going, oh my God, how do I get out of this?
I tell you what I hated.
The Seinfeld episode.
Yeah. No, what I hated was day one being on that stool, and I didn't have a guitar strap. So day two was much better. I played much better. Day one was kind of rough.
Yeah.
my playing was
for you. I felt for you.
Yeah. So that, and then definitely the Cronus was one of my favorites, just because it was one of those, like, I originally saw it and just not being like a Les Paul-ish kind of guy. But I thought it was much more comfortable than a Les Paul. Like a Les Paul, like the little fin almost feels like the guitar is gonna like bottom off your leg.
Right.
But that longer fin on the Cronus, it just sits right on your leg and it feels very like secure. So it's like you just play. I'm not like, oh my God, this is gonna like tank on me in the middle of playing. So.
Right.
Yeah, Cronus is really nice looking guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Their finishes are stunning. You know.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and every top feels like a 10 top. You know, that green one that they had there with that quilt top.
It was a one piece. That green was a one piece top.
I know, that was like top porn.
Yeah, that top was top. I'm just saying
it was
top. Yeah, well, no, because I mean, it's like you know, I mean, I always say, and a lot of people say, like, you play a guitar first with your eyes. I mean, like, you want like the Ibanez reissue. It's because like that guitar grabs your attention. The Acacia gets your attention before you even play it. You've heard it with your eyes. Like, this has to sound amazing. You know, I mean, it'd be like a black guitar to me. Like, that doesn't appeal to me. So I just kind of fan past those right away. But.
So I've been watching the chat a little bit, and it looks like we got Krellbar. I think I saw RNA in there. I saw Cameron Cooper earlier. I hope he's still up, bro. Cameron, you're awesome. Shout out to, I thought I saw Flipside out there for maybe a second or two.
Just said goodbye, though.
Yeah, Ike just left.
Ike just left. Later, Ike. So I thought, I don't know if you guys, you know, it's 8 o'clock. You know, I kind of have to wrap it up pretty soon. If you want to take one or two questions from the audience, and then we will we'll call it a night, just because I kind of have to. Sorry.
It's okay.
So let me look here, and we got nothing.
We got nothing. Someone asked if Michael Kelly guitars are nice.
Yeah, Michael Kelly guitars are nice. I thought so.
But they look very nice and they play good.
Yeah, it's a very affordable, like a Strat style, Telly style guitar. Very close to, and affordable, but good guitars, not cheap guitars. Good guitars.
Yeah, they were upstairs too this year. So.
Yes, that's right. They were in either C or D. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? Hey, here's a good question, because it'll apply. So Michael's asking about the Schecter Super Shredders. Did any of you guys check that out or catch that? I catched it at the end. That Schecter is now making a Charvel style guitar and trying to pull the lineage of them being in California. Yeah, they call it the Super Shredder. Yeah, so Schecter is now it basically created a Charvel. It's got, I mean, as soon as you see it, it's like Charvel. It screams it. And then they're kind of leaning there.
They had like this white guitar, black pick guard. It looked like a Jake E. Lee guitar.
Yeah. That's it. So somebody was asking if I caught it. You know, it's one of those things. I saw it. It went into my head, but it didn't process it till after I left. That's what they were going after, that market.
Right.
Huh.
But yeah, so because I thought it was such a.
Maybe I'll finally own a Schecter because that's my style. I like that Strat look, a Strat with a couple of humbuckers and a Floyd Rose.
Yeah. Well, that's like I said. Check them out. That's definitely what they're going after.
Yeah.
Air dry or blow dry, Robert?
Just straight up air dry.
Nice.
It's more like towel dry, but yeah,
These
I'll
are
have an
important questions.
I'll have an instruction video about how to get out of the shower and not care about your hair very soon.
Did Kramer have her booth? No, Kramer is under the Gibson brand's umbrella. And the reason why I didn't see Kramer there was because Gibson has a fairly large booth, as you would imagine, a lot of little different sections. And they were in the Epiphone section, and they only had 2 models up. And apparently I didn't see them. So Kramer, 2 years ago at NAMM 2015, they had a rack with about a dozen models. And last year, I don't remember seeing them. I heard they had 1 or 2 guitars. This year, 1 or 2 guitars. The big thing is that they haven't updated their website since December 29th, 2015. That date isn't random. That's pretty much where that looks like a wind down if I ever saw one.
What do you think? And this is more of a question for you guys here. The Wild Audio line, it's shown in the Schecter booth, and it's really just in a very, very small section. What's your opinion on the success of Wild Audio, in your opinion?
Is it really taken off? How's it doing? I don't know the numbers. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know too many people playing them. Is it a brand too identified with the owner?
I think it is. It's all about Zach Wild, and they're only available through I think it's Guitar Center, companies. So, it's interesting. I think, and I don't know, I think you have to be a Zach Wild fan. I mean, they're very, very Zach Wild, looking. So it's like an EVH guitar, right? You're going to buy a red striped EVH guitar if you're an Eddie Van Halen fan. If you're probably not an Eddie Van Halen fan, you're probably not going to buy that guitar. That's my guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you go.
I did a live feed with Sammy Ash of Sam Ash. And that was a question that came up. They asked him what he thought of it, and so what it was it's available at Guitar Center, but then it was supposed to be made available to all the other stores out there. And Sammy made a comment. He's like, "Yeah, but if you want to alienate me, go ahead and give it to my competitor for a year before you let me have at it." So I think they've done a lot of things wrong. One of the things too is, when he started talking about it, they were going to do amps, remember all this other stuff. I saw it, right? And I feel like they threw this little sample of it out there. We saw it, and now I feel like I saw another sample again. Like, right? Yeah. Was it supposed to explode? Right, and be more stuff and have more options. And
I think the big difference is that the former company he worked with that said Gibson on the headstock.
Yeah.
And there's, I think that goes a long way. And you know what? It's not just because it's a Gibson, it's the heritage behind the line. Fender's been at it a long time. Gibson has been at it a long time. When companies that, work with the big boys, so to speak, and they go away from that, I don't think it will be like working with the big boys. That's what I think.
Plus Gibson has an exclusive shape, and if you want that shape, they're the only place you can go and get it. That exact shape is their exclusive, and they'll let you know if you're even close.
That's what he made music on, right? One of the things, I did a video on this a long time ago, and it was really about, the signature gear today isn't always what the artist used to create the tones that you fell in love with. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's uphill for a brand like that to be successful in the market, because days are probably behind for, some of the artists, and people are in love with the tones from those I like, for instance, the Gunslinger was so important to me because that was very reminiscent of a certain era.
Right.
But if CC DeVille started playing, I don't know, Brand X, I probably wouldn't be too interested in Brand X today because that's not what I fell in love with, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's almost like with Eddie Van Halen. I mean, think about how many different companies Eddie's been involved with. But think of how many companies have Zakk Wylde been involved with?
Yeah.
One, his whole career. So then all of a sudden, he has his own brand, and they're like, no, you're Zakk Wylde. You play Les Pauls. You know, Eddie, it's like he plays Super Strats. So
I think it's hard with what I would call, what's that called? Vertical integration, right? When it's like, I'm not just the artist, I'm also like making the instruments and stuff. You know, it's like, I know you're trying to put yourself out there, and signature guitars have been successful, but you know, the Eric Clapton signature guitar was a set of specs. It wasn't like a whole line created after like the one person. It's hard. Same with the Steve Vai. It's like he's got a signature guitar. When you try to make a whole line, it's like anything. It could sink or swim. And you know, we've seen brands come out like Acacia that seem to be getting some traction. It's not like the world isn't ready for maybe something, you know, like a new guitar line, right? I mean, look what happened with Sir, right? I mean, Sir has just come out of nowhere and pretty much stolen the high-end Strat market. So it's not like, you know, there's not room for growth. It's like sometimes you wonder, like, when you go to NAMM, you're like, who's not making a guitar, right? It's like there's so many vendors. It's like, you've got to be kidding me. It's like from double A to double Z, there's like a vendor in there. And but again, it really just comes down to the product. And like we were saying, you know, when you're almost like too tied to one artist, one thing guitar players want to feel is unique, and you're always going to feel like you're a Zakk Wylde guy if you're playing the Zakk Wylde line, I feel.
Yeah.
Well,
I like yeah, go ahead, you go. I'm sorry.
You know, plus too, I think Robert touched on it too. You know, Eddie, which we all know that's what the Zakk Wylde thing's going for. It's looking at the Eddie Van Halen, the EVH brand success, and saying, yeah, well then why can't I be a brand of product too?
Me too.
Yeah, me too. You know, the difference though is not, you know, I had a friend say, well, Eddie's more popular or bigger than that. And I go, yeah, but that's not what it is for me. For me, when I look at the two brands, the difference is Eddie didn't play. I mean, the Wolfgang in some way or another, when he interacted with all those companies, Music Man and you know, PV and whatever, there's a belief system, whether it's true or not, that we all believe that he was interacting with these guys, designing the sounds, the shapes, the tones with them. Zakk just picked up a Les Paul and threw AMGs in it.
Well, not only that, but the stripes have such a history. I mean, for us, this is like our Nike swoosh, right? This is a you know, a marking that like they can put it on anything, and we know instantly you could put that on anything, and you'd say that's Van Halen, right? So it's like, right. It's the Van Halen branding. I mean, pretty much that's it.
Zakk Wylde was.
So when you look at the EVH, and you're getting basically a Strat with that iconic stripe, you look at that stripe, and it brings you back to when you're, you know, 14 years old, and you're listening to that album and looking at that album cover or that cassette cover, you know, and you're way, or CD cover, and you're way into this, you know. You don't have that feeling with Zakk Wylde because those guitars don't have that kind of history like those Strats do. You know. Period.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like I was saying, you know, if you think of like Zakk Wylde, what two pieces of gears do you think of when you think of Zakk Wylde?
A Gibson Les Paul, a Boss Super Chorus, and a Boss Super Overdrive, and a that's it. That's it.
Yeah, and when you think of Eddie Van Halen, like to me, you think of it's just like the stripes. Like that's like the stripes are almost his brand. It's not even like it wasn't Kramer or Charvel, you know.
And brilliantly, the stripes take away from the identifying of the instrument. He put those stripes on other shapes, and somehow it worked.
Yeah. But he also, like with the Frankenstrat, like he tinkered. Yeah. You know, he was like an Edison of guitars for doing what he did. He was the first to fiddle with the Variacs, right? He was the first, and I say first loosely, maybe there were other people, but he did the tapping. Like, he defined a generation. His overdrive sounded like nobody else's overdrive when he came out.
Oh yeah.
I can tell you this, I'm going through a little bit of a Van Halen phase again. I've been learning a lot of Van Halen stuff and listening to it very closely, slowed down and stuff. And his syncopation stuff alone, I mean, he is just on a level. There's a lot going on there. When you really slow it down and start listening, he's doing these little articulations. That's what I loved about Rocco's playing so much. He had the articulations. It's the exactly it.
Yep, that's 100. I was just gonna say, Rocco had that. Like when he played, like that staccato-y sound that he got on the higher strings and stuff. I'm like he's got it. He's got that Eddie thing.
Yeah. And it's it's a thing where you got one of there. I think the most famous, guitar player of them all, Zach is. I'm getting a little more. Am I getting more feedback? Oh, no, so I think it's fixed. Zach is certainly famous. Don't get me wrong, but he's the third guitar player in Ozzy. All right, I mean versus Van Halen. Nothing to take away from Zach. He's awesome, but to me, Van Halen is like in pretty much a category by himself.
So can I tell you what I think happened? And this is 100% speculation. I feel like something went wrong at Gibson, and it was, what are you going to do? Right?
Oh yeah, I agree.
And it was, I feel like that was a response to being backed into a corner, right? Maybe, who knows? Maybe there was a very expensive endorsement deal. I'm not sure if Gibson financials are solid. And maybe that was, the first thing any company does when they're having financial problems is it's the people aspect that takes the first hit, right? And maybe that was, perhaps, and again, I don't know, maybe that was one of the more expensive endorsements that wasn't yielding the return that maybe it could have been, yielding for the company. So maybe Ivanka Trump thing, company decides, hey, we don't want to carry it anymore because sales aren't there. So, if I had to speculate, my guess is something like that maybe happened. And then it's like, okay, what are you going to do? Play the guitar because you really like the guitar, even though you lost the endorsement deal. And maybe it was like, you know what? You look at your peers, Eddie Van Halen, as a guitar god kind of peer, and say, let's do that. That would be my guess as to how that whole thing went down.
Yeah, in Zach's defense, though, right around the time he was talking about coming up with that label, Gibson was getting knocked down by Moody's to like junk bond status.
Yep, that's what I was going to say.
So, Zach might have been looking at a sinking. He might have been a rat deserting his sinking ship and saying, you know what? I'll take my chances over here with my own brand because I'm not sure Gibson might go bankrupt, and God forbid that ever happened. I think they're actually doing much better now, but at the time he formed that company, they were not doing well.
Yeah,
there was all kinds of stories out there. You just look up what the Tennessean wrote about them. Look up, there's another guy, I can't think of his name, but there's a whole bunch of stuff. Just look up Moody's credit rating, Gibson brands. And there's a dozen stories out there that talk about how Gibson's branding, Gibson brands has been killed in their credit rating, and that their bonds are trading at 50% of face value. That means that whoever holds those bonds doesn't think they're even going to get half of the face value from that bond. That's not a good financial position. That's a pretty shaky financial position. So it could be, just in Zach's defense, he could have just been like, I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm. Now let's also do the litmus test. How many of us how many own a Gibson Les Paul Zach Wild signature series? Probably none of us, right?
No.
Right.
No.
But how many of us own an Ibanez? I know I do. Pixie, you do.
I do.
Philip, you do.
I do.
So, you look at stuff like that. So that's, more viable. Or who owns a Charvel, right? I think, companies, at the end of the day, you have to remember one thing. For a company, it's a business. And when something changes, there's only one reason why that would change. Let's put it like this. If they were selling a massive amount of Zach Wild Signature Series Bullseye Les Pauls, I guarantee it'd still be with the company.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a reason why that changed. So I think, like you said, you know, there's probably something financial, and it was, okay, what do you do? Now, maybe a nice thing would have been like, hey, listen, I played Les Paul my whole life. With or without endorsement, it's the gear I stand behind. I'm going to continue playing it. Maybe like an Allman Brothers or something like that. I'm sure there's a lot of folks that play the gear that they like.
Plus, if you are a company in trouble, one of the first thing you do is you reduce production lines. That saves us the money. The last thing you want to do is have 25 different Les Paul styles out there. You get that down to 15, like that, because you save a ton in production costs. So it could have just been that, you know, it was a sort of a mutual parting of the ways, where he didn't, you know, they didn't want to make the guitar, and he was all too happy to leave and go start his own company.
But with that said,
how's that for diplomacy?
I like it, but let me tell you this. One of the things that bothers me is seeing the artist hop from company to company to company. Like, for instance, you know, Gus G was ESP from day one. Now all of a sudden he's Jackson. You know, it's like,
well, there's no bigger, worse one than Paul Stanley, right? I mean, he just goes with who's ever paying him, who's ever cutting the check. He's with it. So
but go on. But
if I were him, I probably would have done that, because you know what would have looked awkward is, hey, now I'm playing, you know, Brand X, and you should go buy Brand X because it's awesome. And you know what? I call shenanigans on that type of move all day long. You know, like if Gus G, and listen, I respect him as a player, but if he says, hey, you know, Jackson is, you know, some, you know, artists, they take it over. I'm not saying he said this. Let's pretend he said, go buy Jackson because it's the greatest guitar ever. It's like, but you just, like, you killed it with ESP for like the last 10 years.
Right.
It's, you know, it's like one of those type of things. So to Zach's credit, I kind of like what he did. I just don't know if the sales is quite there. You know what I mean?
I agree with Tone King. I like what Zach did. I just think they executed it poorly. But, you know, and touch on what Tone King was saying too, one of the things that's interesting is if you really like Google it, sometimes you can figure out when artists jump, they're leaving with the marketing managers of those companies. A good example is, think about when Fender acquired Jackson Charvel. You know, they got that company, but they took in some of the players, you know, not players like guitar players, but some of the key people in the company in Jackson that have relationships with artists, and they can bring those over to Fender, right? And like when John Mayer left Fender, he left because they let go of somebody at Fender that he was dealing with, that's who he wanted to deal with. And he doesn't need to deal with them. You know what I mean? So once that person was gone, and that happens all the time. The guy who runs Jackson Charvel EVH now was a VP at Ibanez. So, right. So you start seeing that happening. You know, somebody leaves one company and they can take those artists because of those personal relationships. And
it really is all about the relationships at the end of the day.
Yeah, and if you collect guitars like we do, we all know. I mean, I love Ibanez's and I love ESPs and I love Jackson. You know, good example, the Gunslinger, the Ibanez RG550, and let's say ESP guitar. If you wanted to, you could make any one of those on a building level be equal to any of the other guitars. Agreed. So, you're right. So as an artist, it's very easy to leave the guitar, right? Because that can be cloned, right? As long as you like dealing with the person you're dealing with. And I think it's not always that, but it happens.
My problem with that is the integrity. Listen, as an artist, you'll be able to play anything you want to play. I was a 15-year-old kid at one point, right? The reason why I love Charvel is because Warren DeMartini dropped down through a ceiling and played a solo.
Yep.
And to this day, he's still playing Charvel, and I respect him all day long for that. It's these artists that hop around and, hey, play this, and I play that, and this is the greatest guitar ever. You know, it's like, stop taking us for fools. That's how I feel. That sort of thing. Play what you like.
Yeah. Look at like I have to go after this, but look at like Nuno. He's been with Washburn since
forever. The beginning.
Yeah.
Well, think about this: the list of guitar players that are with the original companies. They, you know, you notice what they always have in common. They play the original guitar, right? Like not. I mean, I don't mean the same model, but I mean, like, look at Vi. You know, Vi is what Vi and Nuno have in common. is physically on stage, they not only still play the guitar, they still play the first one they were given.
Yep.
Right? They haven't even used, right? So
there's a great ad. There's a great ad from like a magazine ad. You can find it online. It's either 84, it might be 85, and it's a Charvel Jackson ad. And that ad is a who's who of shred guitar players. It's got Steve Vai and like Tony McAlpine and like all these like killer players. And I mean, like Steve Lynch from Autograph. It's like all this stuff. And it's like 2 years later, they're all with someone else. And it's like, you know, Steve Vai is with Ibanez now. And like Joe Satriani came out, he got with Ibanez. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's 8:23. So time to wrap this up.
This was a lot of fun, Pixie. Thank you very much. This was nice, and I appreciate being invited to this. I had a lot of fun.
Yes. Thank you very much, man.
Yes, thank you too, Pixie. It was amazing.
I had a lot of fun. We should do this every year after NAMM. We should have a little NAMM summit, and we'll.
Anyone going to summer, NAMM?
Maybe.
I might actually be going to the Russian NAMM in September.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Get the fuck out of here! Really?
Yeah, no, seriously. Seriously, I'm not shitting you. I might be going to the company who who does my picks for me. They're out of Belarus, and they don't go to the NAMM here, but they do go to Russian NAMM. And they said, you know, we'll fly you over. We'll set you all up. All you got to do is get your passport. We'll cover your hotel and everything,
Dang.
your airfare. And if I did that, if you look at the airfare was surprisingly cheap. It was only about $800 round trip. I actually thought it was going to be a lot more money than that. But it's Moscow. When you go to the big places, it's a lot cheaper, right? So it's in Moscow, and because there's a lot of air travel there, it's relatively cheap. But it lays over in London. So on the way back, I would probably maybe stop and go down to Guildford and hit Anderton's, and do a London stop for like 2 or 3 days, and then head back to the States. It'll be my big Euro/Eurasia trip.
Man,
awesome.
That's crazy. Congrats.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's only in the dream stages right now, but they're offering it, and I'm like, if you want to go, I'll do it. I'll go to Russia if I still can, as long as there's not a travel ban that prevents me from going to Russia. So we'll see. Or getting back. But yeah, no summer NAMM plans. How about you, Robert? You went last year. I might want to do the Sweetwater thing like you did. That seems like the place to go.
Yeah, that was actually really cool. It's definitely, it's like a 1 day kind of thing. I think they do it like a weekend, the Gear Fest, but that was cool. At least for like, people like us who do a lot of like YouTube stuff. It was like a much more, I guess like intimate would be the way to put it. Like to meet the companies, like I'm, talk with Friedman, and everyone was happy. Like NAMM, like 3 days in, you can tell it's like everyone's just worn out. They've been asked a million questions, but they were all just like super chill. Like, oh, you want to check out the amp? And like David Friedman was like literally sitting there, like walking me through the amps. And he's like, yeah, try this channel and stuff like that. And I was like, NAMM, you don't necessarily get that on Saturday, like maybe on Thursday, everyone's like, NAMM. And then Saturday they're like, NAMM. So yeah, Gear Fest was pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's it. Is it in Ohio?
Indiana. So it's just a couple hours from me.
Yeah, I might have to check that out.
Sweetwater is something else. It's really nice.
They have one of the best. They're smart. They figured it all, I think, right almost in every way you can figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Bobby Beretta said TK has a fantasy of falling through a ceiling and pointing up to Pixie for a double lead. What was that round? Lay it down. Was it lay it down or round and round? Round and round, right?
Round and round.
Yeah, round and round.
MB215 says Pixie has another blizzard coming Monday. Poor guy. We don't know yet. If it's 100 miles offshore, not too bad. If it's 100 miles inshore from, they have what's that called? A cone of uncertainty. So like if it's more to the left of that cone, yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking good.
How many inches did you get?
We got 12 the other day, officially, like in my town. It was between, say, 8 and 14, but we got 12. Wasn't too bad.
We got about 5 in Jersey.
Yeah. This stuff that we're supposed to get is going to be like 4 or 5 wet, heavy snow. But if it backs in and it sticks around and it stalls out, it could be 12 plus inches. But they so don't know. They're running around like chickens with their heads cut off because this thing is building fast. There's a Latin term for it. It's like a bonsemus or something where it goes out and it just picks up so much moisture off the ocean. It just like rages. Like it's almost like a flash fire, but in terms of like a storm. And then it's like, does it whip itself up like a pinball and just bong right out into the ocean? And if it does, we're not getting much. But if it just sits and spins for a while, then it's just going to wrap a ton of moisture off the ocean. And that's not good. So,
wow.
Anyway, we're used to it. I have a snowblower. I feel worse. You know what's the worst? The cats. Because the cats open the door and they have the meow of, are you shitting me? Right? They're like, there's no place for the cat to go. They're like, they want to go to the bathroom so bad. They know they got to use the litter box and they are not happy about it. So
I have a St. Bernard and she looks at the snow and she's like, he wants to go.
That's a big litter box.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I said that's a big litter box.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we should just wrap this up. I'm going to kill this broadcast. Why don't you guys stay seated, and we'll wrap this up off air in a sec. But I'm going to it's 8:29. Let's pull the plug on this. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out. I want to thank Tone King, Phillip McKnight, Robert Baker, and, of course, myself for all attending this NAMM spectacular. And I had a lot of fun.
Me too.
So,
That's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. So
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Porn voice. All right, guys. So we're gonna wrap it up. Sorry, no long goodbyes. But we got things to do. All right. Here we go. Wrapping it up. All the horns. I'm gonna give double horns for everyone out there, and we're going off there. And later, as soon as I click this now.